So we were invited to a press screening of M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's directorial debut, Ishana Shyamalan, or Night Shyamalan. She got the middle and the last, although maybe it is Night Shyamalan. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Maybe.
But yeah, so his daughter's making movies now, and this year seems to be the Nepo baby year because we got Caitlin Cronenberg's film as well. So, this is based off of a novel by A.M. Shine, which I know literally nothing about.
Yeah, I'm not familiar either.
The movie stars Dakota Fanning. Mm-hmm. It also has Georgina Campbell and the chick who plays Sally Hardesty in Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022 from Netflix. That's in like 5 or 6 movies we watched in the last like 2 years. She just keeps popping up in everything.
Yeah.
And this deals with a group of people who are lost in the woods. Mm-hmm. They all take shelter in this house with a big kind of two-way mirror. And some of them have been there longer than others. Mm-hmm. And there is a set of rules to surviving, and there seemingly is no way out of the forest. Yes. And of course, with the title, there's someone watching. What is it? It was us. We were the watchers. We are the watchers of this movie. Okay, so I'm going to let Kaylee go first because I think that's probably for the best.
So you can have your rant.
No, it's not a rant.
Well, I really enjoyed this movie. I found it to be a really cool concept. I'm really happy with what ended up being the case, like with the plot. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a lot that I really enjoyed about it. I like the setting. I like the use of the forest itself as like a kind of plot device character in a way. Okay. I really liked the performances from everybody. I thought they were good. I love Dakota Fanning in general, so I thought she did a great job. And the horror really worked for me in this, especially in the like third act of the film. I think that there was a lot of imagery, like a lot of visuals that I personally find to be really scary and very creepy. And the effects worked for me. I didn't think that they looked weird or anything, and I was just a big fan of it. I really, really enjoyed what this is about, and I feel like it's something that we don't get a lot of, so yeah.
Yeah. I think an important note here, much like her father, now he has made some R-rated films, but for the most part, he's typically stays within the PG-13 framework, as well as does his daughter here. So for anyone looking for an R-rated, gore fest or, any kind of extremism or any of that kind of like really adult material, that's not really here. And the movie definitely, as far as the horror goes, it does rely on half imagery and half jump scares. And because it's PG-13, that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. As far as my thoughts on the film go, I think there's a couple things to factor in here. Number one, the trailer has this Twilight Zone-esque feel to it. And I think people are going to go into this wanting that to be the direction that this takes. Some really heady, intriguing, thought-provoking, unique film for the modern age. And also, this is M. Night Shyamalan's kid. And there's definitely a good amount of expectation on what she's going to bring to the table that would be similar-ish to her father, most notably in a twist. And I think in those areas, with those expectations, I think this film is going to fall a bit flat for people. I think that what I had expectations for, and I do typically try to not let my expectations get the best of me, I found myself to be fairly disappointed in the been there, done that feel of the film. I felt like a lot of this film is stuff that I've seen quite a bit. Now, what it ultimately ends up being might be something we don't see explored as much, but it is nothing new or original, right? It is something that might be underused to a degree, but it is something that have seen before, and we do know that it of its existence. So for me, I was just hoping for this film to go and explore new territory, create some kind of new lore for us to, dissect and analyze, and that we could get something a little bit more original, because I do feel that the premise lends itself very well to some kind of Twilight Zone kind of idea where we are thinking very deeply about what all happens within the film once it's concluded. And with this, it's just like what it ends up being for me. And it reveals itself pretty early on, and there is a lot of exposition. So this is never going to be a film that you're going to be lost in. There's not, there's no A24 feel to this where things are very,
like subtle and
yeah, and left open for interpretation and stuff like that. Like none of that is here. This is very heavy-handed, expositional, and and predictable. I found the film to be extremely predictable. I leaned over to Kaylee and told her exactly what was going on, and it's exactly what it was. There's also some character moments for me that felt uneven compared to like what was going on in the situation and what they did in the previous scene or two. And I was like, would they really do that when they did this? There's also other moments that are quite convenient and other moments that feel very unbelievable, because it's like, you've been here this long and no one noticed this thing? Like those kinds of moments where you're like, I don't know, man. I just found, I think that there is cool things in here. And I probably enjoyed the film more than I didn't. But I do find that this film, in just my opinion, is going to fall pretty mid-tier for people, and it's going to end up somewhere in the like mid to low fives on like an IMDb. It's going to be a film that people are going to be fairly disappointed in because of the name attached, fairly disappointed because of the premise and what it could have been versus what it is. And I think the people who are into what Kaylee was into for the film will dig it. That'll be the audience that accepts this film and really buys into it and rolls with it. But I feel like you do kind of have to be into what it all ends up being. And I'm not into it. It's just, as I said, it's something, while maybe not done a bunch, it is very similar to other things that have been done a bunch. So there's almost nothing in the film that I felt was fresh or unique, because a bunch of people locked in a small space with specific rules, that's nothing new. But you can take that in places where it is interesting. As I had mentioned to Kaylee when we were on the drive home, I love these kinds of premises. I'm a huge fan of the characters, the archetype that was set up by Twilight Zone in like 5 characters in search of an exit kind of thing, where you've got circle, or you've got cube, or you've got saw, or you've got to wait further instructions, or I can go down the list of 100 fucking films off the top of my head that do this kind of, concentrated area, and there doesn't seem to be an escape. And I found all of those films, The Platform, those are all movies that when we explored the why and the what, I found those to be way more rewarding than something like this, where it's just kind of like, oh, that's what we're doing here? Okay. Because of the setup, because of the premise, it's kind of like, oh, that's what we're doing? That doesn't really work super well with the potential of what this concept is and what this trailer's selling this to potentially be. So that's I think there was an expectation issue with not only the name, which as I said, I did try to keep myself away from that. But I can't, I do feel like even if I went into this blind, even if I didn't know who the director was and who she was attached to, I still feel like I'd feel pretty similarly, because once that setup is there and I have that kind of Twilight Zone-ish feel, I'm like, ooh, what could this be? There's so many possibilities. There's so many fresh, unique ways we can take this. And then it kind of just becomes some classic thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it was fine. That stuff was all fine. I think it's mostly well directed. There's some CGI that's going to be hit or miss for people. And I don't know. I liked it, but I just don't think it's going to live up to the potential that everyone's going to want it to.
I mean, I agree with you that I think that there's some predictability in the film. For me, the exposition worked in this case. I like that it was included, because I think it is necessary for the type of film that it is.
I agree.
And I also feel like the tropey parts, or the parts that you have seen before in other films, I think that they were handled well in this. So even if there isn't anything necessarily super new with those parts of it, I still thought it was done really well. So I don't really have any complaints about any of that stuff. And as
you
far
likened
as,
it to something that's very astute
yeah. And as far as like the character like actions and such, I wasn't particularly bothered by them, because I think that there is a good enough explanation for why the character acts the way that they do.
Yeah.
But I think that it's one of those cases where if you're like not really vibing with the film, like it would be easy to maybe criticize it.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, or, you know, if it's just not working for you, it's not working for you. But overall, I still think it's a really cool film, and the CGI didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I thought it was totally fine, and I really like what we do get with it. So I like that the film doesn't go for the subtle, open-ended side in this case, and I like that things are really like explicitly shown. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted them to be. Yeah. And I thought it was successful in that way.
Yeah, the movie shows a lot and it tells a lot.
Yes.
Right. It plays its hand very heavy. It feels like a rookie film from somebody who's still kind of figuring things out. I think there's promise here for her. I think her next film could be better for sure. And I think what it does well enough. I don't really have any major gripes per se with how it all, like the film as it is. The film as it is, I'm like, that's where I'm like, yeah, I liked it more than I didn't. I'm fine with it. Now that I've seen it, and if I was to watch it again and I all know what's happening in it, I'll probably enjoy it maybe even a little more, because it's just like, yeah, okay, like I know everything. The mystery's all gone for me, and maybe now I can look for little, tidbits of information or something, little cool bits. And the thing I was trying to say earlier is Kaylee likened this to From, the TV series From, that we watched, and I agree with her 100%. This has a very similar kind of, it plays out a lot of the ways like From does. And I think that's a really good comparison. And yeah,
I do think it's really hard for like children of famous directors when they try to make their own movies. Like there is an expectation placed on them to live up to like their parents' style, and I think that's really unfair, because even though like I can see the influence of M. Night Shyamalan in this, like there's definitely like some flavor to it, but it's a different film and it's a different vibe, and I think that is something that is really hard for people to separate because they are kind of going on the last name only, and that sucks because they're not their parents. They don't need to make the exact same type of films as their parents. If that's what they want to do and they like love that type of, you know, genre or subgenre or whatever, then go for it. But I think it's clear that she's trying to kind of do her own thing.
Yeah.
While still having like I said, like a flavor of sort of what her dad does. But it is different, and that's not a bad thing.
If I was to liken this to any one of his movies, the film this mirrors the most, and not a ton, but just in concept, execution, everything, and this is actually one of his least liked films, but I do see a decent amount of similarities in it, is Lady in the Water. So as I said, that's gonna make some people be, oh fuck, because that movie is not liked. We just rewatched it very recently, and I did not like it. I liked this much better. But I think you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it, because there's some similarities there for sure for me. So, yeah, overall, I wish I could tell you more, because then that would definitely solidify your wanting to see this or not, because there is this element to it, and it's like, if you're into that thing, then I think this will be a hit with you. But I don't know how many people are into that thing that this ends up being, so I'm like, eeh.
I think it's a fun movie to go into and just see what it's about.
Sure.
I don't know, I think if the trailer looks intriguing to you, I don't think that the trailer is misleading in any way. I think that it is a setup trailer. Like, it just gives you, like, this is the setup.
Yeah.
So if you like that setup, then I think you should go into it and watch it and just, like, decide for yourself. And it will become pretty obvious, like, what it's about, you know, pretty early-ish on. And, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's that. And actually, funny enough, Georgina Campbell from Barbarian just did another movie this year called Lovely, Dark, and Deep. And that had a decent amount of similarities to this one. So she made
the forest and everything.
two similar films, for sure, in a short period of time. But yeah, I will be curious on what people think of this once it comes out. It does come out tomorrow night. I don't think we can drop this until the morning, though. The embargo doesn't lift till this morning, so it'll be tonight by the time you guys see this. But yeah, let us know what you think. And I am very curious on the response, but I have a feeling I know exactly how this is going to go. I usually am right. So with that. Not usually right in general, just with that, with people's reactions to these types of movies. I'm usually bang on. They might not match mine.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I love this, but I think people are going to hate it. And people usually hate it. You know, like I'm usually pretty good on that. So we'll see. Let me know in the comments below. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.